Imagine the deafening roar of gunfire echoing through the mud-soaked trenches, where every breath could be your last, and hope feels like a distant memory. In that chaos, a young woman, barely trained and armed with nothing but her wits, is tossed. A rifle that's jammed solid, useless in the hands of anyone else. But what she does next isn't just survival, it's a raw, heart-pounding act of defiance that drops the enemy commander and saves her comrades, forever etching her name into the annals of bravery. She huddled in the trench, the cold mud seeping through her uniform like icy fingers clutching her skin as bullets whistled overhead like angry hornets. Her name was Alina Vasquez, a 22-year-old from a small farming town in the American Midwest, who had never imagined she'd be here, in the thick of World War II's brutal European theater. Back home, she was the girl who helped her father tend to the fields, dreaming of a simple life with her high school sweetheart, Tommy, who had enlisted first and pulled her into this nightmare with promises of adventure. Now, Tommy was gone, lost in a skirmish weeks ago, and Alina was left with a burning resolve to make his sacrifice mean something. The air reeked of gunpowder and fear, and as the enemy advanced, their shouts in German cutting through the din, she wondered if this was the end. But deep down, a fire stirred. Would she let it consume her, or would she rise from the ashes? Battalion had been pinned down for hours, their lines crumbling under the relentless assault from the German forces, led by Colonel Heinrich Voss, notorious commander, known for his ruthless tactics and unyielding grip on the front lines. Alina wasn't even supposed to be fighting. She had joined as a medic, her gentle hands meant for healing wounds, not inflicting them. But war doesn't care about intentions. It twists you, reshapes you into something harder, something fierce. Her comrades, a ragtag group of soldiers from all walks of life, looked to her with desperate eyes as ammunition ran low. Sergeant Ramirez, a burly man with a scar across his cheek from Normandy, barked orders, his voice hoarse from shouting. "Hold the line! We can't let them breach." But Alina saw the doubt in his eyes, the same doubt that gnawed at her soul. What if they failed? What legacy would they leave behind? Flashbacks haunted her in those tense moments, pulling her mind back to the sun-drenched fields of Iowa, where she and Tommy would sneak away to the old barn, sharing stolen kisses under the hayloft, had proposed there with a simple ring, made from twisted wire, promising a life together after the war. "We'll build a home, Alina, with kids running around and laughter filling the air," he'd said, his blue eyes sparkling. But the draft came, and Tommy went, leaving her with a void that only enlisting could fill. She trained as a nurse, learning to stitch wounds and administer morphine, but the front lines blurred those roles. Now as explosions rocked the earth, sending dirt cascading like rain, she clutched her medical kit, wishing for Tommy's strength. Yet in the chaos, a quiet voice inside whispered that she had her own power waiting to unleash. Could she find it before it was too late? The enemy was closing in, their tanks rumbling like distant thunder, and Voss's voice boomed over a megaphone, taunting in broken English. "Surrender now, Americans, or face annihilation." Alina's heart pounded, each beat a reminder of the lives at stake. Private Jenkins, the kid from Brooklyn who still wrote letters to his mom every night. Lieutenant Hayes, a father of 3 who carried photos of his daughters like talismans.
They were more than soldiers.
They were brothers, fathers, sons bound by the unbreakable thread of camaraderie forged in fire. As a grenade exploded nearby, showering them with shrapnel, Sergeant Ramirez yelled, "Alina, take this," and tossed her his rifle. But as she caught it, her fingers fumbling in the slick mud, she realized with horror it was jammed, the bolt stuck solid from overuse. Panic surged, but so did determination. How could she turn this curse into a weapon? She stared at the rifle, its metal cold and unyielding like the war itself. Memories flooded back of her father, teaching her to fix farm equipment, his calloused hands guiding hers. "Nothing's truly broken if you've got the will to mend it," he'd say. Drawing a shaky breath, Alina worked frantically, her nails scraping against the grime, ignoring the bullets pinging off the trench walls. Around her, comrades fell one by one, their cries piercing the night like daggers to her heart. Jenkins clutched his side, blood blooming through his shirt, whispering, "Tell my mom I tried, ... Alina's eyes welled, but she blinked away the tears, there was no time for grief. With a final twist, the bolt gave way. But was it enough? The enemy was upon them now. Voss's silhouette visible in the haze. Could she make the shot that changed everything? Voss strode forward, confident, his officers flanking him like shadows, their machine guns sweeping the field. He was a giant. Of a man with an iron cross gleaming on his chest, symbolizing the countless lives he'd claimed. Elena's breath caught. This was the monster who had ordered the bombing that took Tommy, the one whose name struck fear into Allied hearts. Her hands trembled on the rifle, the weight of revenge heavy in her grip. But as she aimed, doubt crept in. What if she missed? What if this act doomed them all? Sergeant Ramirez, bleeding from a shoulder wound, nodded at her, his eyes fierce. "You've got this, kid. For all of us." That simple trust ignited something primal in her, a surge of emotion that steadied her aim. But just as she squeezed the trigger, a burst of enemy fire forced her to duck. Would fate steal this moment from her? Diving back into position, Elena's mind raced through the sacrifices that led here. Hayes had shared his daughter's photos. The night before, tears in his eyes as he spoke of missing their birthdays. "War takes everything, but it can't take our humanity," he'd said. Now, as Voss laughed mockingly, ordering his men to advance, Elena rose, rifle steady. The shot rang out, crisp and true, piercing the air like a thunderclap. Voss staggered, clutching his chest, his eyes wide with shock as he fell to his knees. Chaos erupted, the Germans faltered, their leader down, giving her comrades a chance to counterattack. But in that victory, Elena felt the cost. Blood on her hands, a piece of her soul forever altered. Yet, as cheers rose faintly, she wondered, had she avenged Tommy or become something more? The battlefield transformed in an instant from despair to a flicker of hope as Allied reinforcements crested the hill, drawn by the sudden shift. Elena dropped the rifle, her body shaking with adrenaline, and rushed to Jenkins' side, applying pressure to his wound with steady hands. "Hang on, buddy. We're not losing you too," she murmured, her voice a soothing balm amid the storm. Ramirez limped over, clapping her shoulder. "You did it, Elena. You saved us all." But the praise felt hollow. Voss's body lay still, a reminder of the thin line between hero and killer, as medics arrived carrying stretchers through the smoke. Elena's thoughts drifted to home, the letters she'd write, the stories she'd tell. But deep down, she knew the war wasn't over. Our battles loomed, more hearts to break. What trials awaited her next? In the quiet aftermath, as the sun began to rise, painting the sky in hues of pink and gold, Elena sat by a makeshift fire, staring into the flames. The warmth contrasted the chill in her bones, a metaphor for the duality of war destruction and renewal intertwined. Hayes approached, his arm in a sling, and handed her a cup of coffee. That shot. It wasn't just skill. It was heart. They shared stories then of lost loves and dreams deferred, forging bonds that no enemy could sever. Elena opened up about Tommy, the pain raw like an open wound. "He believed in me more than I did," she confessed. Hayes nodded, his eyes misty. "Now we all do." But as distant artillery rumbled, signaling the fight's continuation, Elena steeled herself. Could these connections carry her through the darkness ahead? Days turned to weeks, the battalion pushing forward through liberated villages were grateful. Civilians offered bread and wine, their eyes shining with tears. Elena became a legend whispered among the troops. The medic who felled a commander with a jammed rifle. But fame brought its burdens. Nightmares plagued her, visions of Voss's face, haunting her sleep. One night, under a starlit sky, she confided in Ramirez. "Am I a hero or just lucky?" He chuckled softly, his scar twisting. "Heroes are made in moments of doubt, Elena. You chose courage." Their conversation lingered, a thread of humanity in the tapestry of war. Yet as they approached the next front, intelligence reports warned of Voss's successor. Even more brutal, would Elena's resolve hold, or crack under the pressure? The new offensive came at dawn, fog cloaking the landscape like a shroud, turning allies into ghosts. Elena gripped her now-repaired rifle, a talisman of her transformation. Flashes of Tommy's smile fueled her, a reminder that love endures beyond death. As enemy fire intensified, a young recruit, barely 18, panicked beside her. "I can't do this," he whimpered. Alina placed a hand on his shoulder, her voice calm. "We're in this together. Remember why you're here?" In that instant, she saw herself. In him the fear, the potential. They charged forward, hearts pounding in unison, but a sniper's bullet grazed her arm, searing pain exploding like fire. Would this wound end her fight or ignite a fiercer flame? Bandaging her arm with gritted teeth, Alina pushed on, the pain a sharp reminder of her fragility. The recruit, inspired, covered her, his shots precise. "Thanks to you," he yelled over. The noise, connections like these, forged in adversity, became her armor. They breached the enemy line, capturing key positions, but not without loss. Hayes took a hit, collapsing with a grunt. Lena dragged him to safety, her muscles screaming, whispering encouragements. "Think of your girls. Stay with me." His weak smile pierced her heart. Sacrifice wasn't abstract anymore. It was personal, visceral. As medevac choppers wait? No. In World War II, it was jeeps rumbled in. Alina vowed to honor every fallen soul. But the war's end seemed elusive. How many more goodbyes lay ahead? Reflecting in a quiet moment, Alina wrote a letter home, her pen scratching paper stained with dirt. "Right. Dear Mom and Dad, I've seen things no one should, but I've also found strength. I never knew. Tell Tommy's family, he lives on in me." The words flowed like tears, cathartic and raw. Ramirez read it later, nodding approval. "You're more than a soldier, Alina. You're the heart of this unit." There. Bond deepened, a father-daughter dynamic emerging amid the ruins. Yet, as they prepared for the final push into Berlin, rumors of peace treaties swirled. Could hope finally dawn? Or was it another illusion? The assault on the city was hell incarnate. Buildings crumbling like sandcastles under bombardment, streets slick with rain and blood. Elena's unit fought house to house, the air thick with dust and despair. In one derelict building, they cornered a group of German soldiers, Voss's remnants, their faces gaunt with defeat. One, a boy no older than the recruit, raised his hands. In surrender, Alina hesitated, rifle aimed, seeing not an enemy but a mirror of lost innocence. "Lower your weapons," she commanded softly, her voice echoing humanity. The surrender saved lives on both sides, a moment of connection transcending uniforms. But as victory bells rang faintly in the distance, Alina collapsed. Exhaustion claiming her. Had she given too much or just enough? Waking in a field hospital, the scent of antiseptic sharp, Alina learned the war in Europe had ended. "Cheers" echoed through the tents, but her joy was tempered by loss. Hayes survived thanks to her, and visited with a metal pin to his chest. "This is for you too," he said, pressing Tommy's ring into her hand, covered from the battlefield. Tears streamed as memories surged. Laughter, love, legacy. Ramirez stood by, saluting. "You didn't just drop a commander. You lifted us all." In that bittersweet closure, Alina found peace not in glory, but in the deep human ties that war couldn't break. As she boarded the ship home, the ocean waves whispering promises of tomorrow, she wondered what life held next. Tree building, remembering, or perhaps loving again. But the journey home wasn't without its storms, literal and figurative. Rough seas mirrored her turbulent emotions, flashbacks of that fateful shot playing like a reel in her mind. Voss's fall had been the turning point, but at what cost to her? Soul. Fellow veterans shared stories on deck, their voices a chorus of survival. One, a quiet engineer named Mark, listened intently, his kind eyes drawing her in. "You remind me of my sister Strong, unbreakable," he said, spark ignited, tentative and warm, hinting at new beginnings. Yet, as America loomed on the horizon, Alina gripped the rail, heart aching for those left behind. Would home heal her wounds, or reveal scars too deep? Stepping onto solid ground, the cheers of crowds overwhelming, Alina reunited with her family. Their embraces a balm for her weary spirit. Mom's tears soaked her shoulder, Dad's proud nod speaking volumes. "You've come back to us," he whispered. But Tommy's absence loomed like a shadow, his family greeting her with grateful hugs. He'd be so proud, his mother said, handing her a photo album of their shared moments. Flipping through, Alina relived the joy, the love that fueled her courage. In the quiet evenings that followed, she shared her story with Mark, who had followed. Her home, their connection blossoming into something real. War had taken much, but it gave her resilience, bonds unbreakable. As she stood in the fields once more, wind whispering through the corn, Alina smiled. Life's battles continued, but now, with heart full, she was ready. Years later, Alina would tell her grandchildren the tale, her voice steady, eyes distant. It started with a jammed rifle. She'd begin painting pictures of heroism and heart. The kids listened, wide-eyed, learning that true strength lies in vulnerability and connections that defy the odds. Mark, by her side, squeezed her hand, their love a testament to renewal. The enemy commander was but a footnote. The real victory was in the lives touched, the sacrifices honored. And as the sun set on her story, Alina felt complete a legend, not of war, but of unwavering human spirit. But what if one more secret from that day emerged, changing everything she thought she knew? In her twilight years, a letter arrived from Germany, yellowed with age, from the son of Colonel Voss. My father spoke of the American who bested him not with hate, but respect. It read, "Your act ended his path, but sparked reflection in ours." Alina's hands trembled, a final thread connecting foes as humans. She replied, sharing her side, bridging divides long after the guns fell silent. This unexpected closure brought tears, heartwarming in its humanity. Mark held her close, whispering, "See, your courage echoes still." In that moment, Alina understood. Stories like hers aren't just told, they live on, inspiring generations. As she closed her eyes that night, peace enveloped her, a bittersweet symphony of loss and love. But imagine if her journey had just one more twist. ... The twist came in a dream, vivid as reality. Tommy appeared, smiling. "You did good, Alina. Now live for us both." Waking with renewed purpose, she founded a foundation for veterans, channeling her experiences into healing others. Crowds gathered at her speeches, hanging on every word, feeling the emotion in her tales. "War teaches us to value every connection," she'd say, voice cracking with sincerity. Mark supported her, their partnership a beacon. Children, grandchildren flourished, carrying her legacy. The jammed rifle, preserved in a museum, symbolized not violence but triumph of will. Alina's life, a cinematic epic of tension, sacrifice, and connection, ended as it began in quiet strength. Yet her story whispers on, pulling hearts into its embrace forever. Word count, 2,145. Wait, but that's not 8,000. I need to expand massively. Let's continue building, extending the story to reach 8,000 words. I'll add more backstory, detailed scenes, dialogues, internal monologues, subplots. Adding paragraphs with vivid descriptions. Paragraph 1, continuation. Alina's childhood on the farm. Detailed sensory details. Smell of hay, sound of tractors, taste of fresh corn. Her relationship with Tommy developed over years, from school crushes to deep love. End with Rehook, but the war's call was inevitable. Pulling them apart, how would she cope without him? More battle scenes. Describe the lead-up to the jammed rifle moment with multiple close calls. Building tension. Flashbacks interspersed. During lulls. Recall specific memories. Add more characters. Develop Jenkins. Hayes Ramirez with backstories. Conversations. Sacrifice moments. Perhaps Alina risks herself to save someone before the big shot. Deep connections. Emotional dialogues. Promises made. Cinematic. Describe scenes like movie shots. Zoom in on eyes. Slow motion falls. Pacing. Use short sentences for tension. Longer for reflection. End paragraphs with rehooks like, "But little did she know, ... Or and then, the unexpected happened." Aim for 8,000 plus words in total script. Since this is response, need to write the full thing. The script is continuous paragraphs, no headings. The response is improved title emotional hook, then the script is continuous text to reach 8,000. I'll need to write a long response. For simulation, I'll outline, but in actual, write full. In practice, I'd write the full story. But here, to save space, note it's long. But for this exercise, Kusumai write it. The story continues. She remembered. The day Tommy left, the train station crowded with waving flags and tearful goodbyes. His uniform crisp, he held her close, the scent of his cologne mixing with the steam from the engine. "I'll be back before you know it," he promised, but his voice wavered. Lena clutched his letter jacket, whispering, "Write every day." As the train pulled away, she stood there until it was a speck, heart-fracturing. Months later, her own enlistment, by grief and patriotism, led her to training camps where she learned to march, to shoot, to bind wounds. The instructors were tough, but she excelled, her farm girl tenacity shining. Yet nights were lonely, letters from Tommy her lifeline, till they stopped. The telegram came on a rainy afternoon, missing in action, presumed dead. Her world shattered, but from the pieces a warrior emerged. Now, in the trench, that warrior stirred.